Aloha, welcome everyone. If you're new here, I am starting on a new series, just educating on just some good topics around home safety, home ownership, how you can have better asset protection, property protection, property insulation, I guess, if you will. Just ensuring that any form of a natural disaster or just some sort of unplanned, extremely traumatic experience, if it's like a burglary or a severe loss of some sort, and just the importance of ways that you can just get a better grasp on protecting yourself, your business, your home, your property, your assets in the event you need to file an insurance claim. I know it's things that we don't necessarily like to talk about or think about. However, I just have been my personal thoughts around being more in a proactive approach to life versus being in a just more passive, laissez-faire mentality. Being forecasting and preparing for the future with rational optimism, and just understanding that life happens and things get thrown our way and we just become better people as we grow and overcome them. And so this is what these series of videos will be dedicated talking about. So I am going to be discussing how professional videography, asset, and property documentation services are beneficial for your home and your business. And I will go ahead and dive right in. So today's topic will be talking about how professional videography, property documentation services can save your assets literally in your greatest time of need. And this came about a way of a story that came across my feed. I am a member of a local a community online site, and people are always sharing what's going on in the neighborhood and what's going on in the community, any upcoming events, things like that. And so it's also good just for community purposes, just to kind of keep engaged and kind of keep abreast of what's going on in your nearby community. So unfortunately, this story is about a home burglary. And we know that that is a very real thing in life. You have worked hard to acquire your home. You have probably been pouring a ton of love, energy, and financial resources into making your home the oasis that you want it to be, because it's essentially your sanctuary from the rest of the world. And with that, like anything in life, it requires protection. So you, most likely being the prudent homeowner that you are, have a homeowner's insurance and policy. And home burglary is one of the things that you might have to deal with at some point in time. While I was conducting some research, I came across some information that typically the average home owner is in their home between 15 to 20 years. So you're spending a big, amount of your time in your life, in your home. And then also another stat that I came across where it's somewhere along the lines of we spend 90% of our time indoors as just us humans. And of course, a big bulk of that, I'm sure, has to do with being at home as well, be it in your business or your office space or whatnot. But, we are spending a lot more time indoors. Of course, as the seasons change, right now we're in the holiday season, so we're definitely going to be inside more than we typically would be. However, I'm saying all this to say is we're definitely going to be in a space where our one of our most valuable assets can be vulnerable, and home burglary is something that we don't want to think about or talk about it too much. I'm big on not speaking things into existence, but I'm also, like I said before, just big on being proactive and being prepared with rational optimism, and just making sure that we can position ourselves to overcome things that just make get thrown our way. So this story is actually about a homeowner. They were having their home fumigated, and unfortunately, burglars, like the Hamburglar, burglars broke into their home, despite obviously the toxic fumes that are used within the chemicals for that type of service. And I just did some research, and apparently this is a lot more prominent. It's a lot more common, I guess, if you will, than you probably think. And there has been cases to where, the local police department has found that, homes that are being fumigated can be big targets. And sometimes it could be, I'm not going to say it's always a big, huge crime, organized crime situation. However, a lot of, the law enforcement reports are being showing that, you definitely are at a greater risk of this happening if you are receiving a service such as having your home fumigated. Now, I also did some research on the other side in terms of the fumigation services, and they do have specific criteria for homeowners when you're having this type of service performed. So one of them being, cracking your windows, probably like about this much, just to kind of help with air circulation, but also making sure that the toxic fumes aren't going out into the environment around the home. And because of the nature of the toxins and the chemicals, you are encouraged to unplug like all electronics and things like that. And that includes your home alarm system that needs to be disabled. And then so because of that, the third recommendation is to hire a private security guard to arm or to watch your property for the entire duration that your home will be tented. And that could be anywhere between 2 to 3 days, maybe more, contingent upon the work. And that can get expensive. I know everyone can afford that. However, it just goes back to, again, you having to protect one of your greatest assets. And unfortunately, in this story, wasn't too much of a happy ending. Their home was actually burglarized and they lost things that are irreplaceable. I believe it was somewhere along the lines of a couple family heirlooms that had been passed down from generation to generation. They had even had a personal safe that was removed. And thankfully enough, they had a neighbor's camera capture some of the footage. And I guess the way that the camera was positioned, it captured some of the area on their property. They themselves did not have cameras around, their home. So thankfully a neighbor was able to view their camera footage and they saw, oh yes, we were able to capture some of it. So they actually saw that the people who broke into the home, they actually had a dolly and they used that dolly to carry out their safe. They also saw that they used their home recycling bin and they were able to place items in there. So they were thinking that they might have been using that to keep things kind of discreet so that way nobody would take notice that they had items in there, because you're just thinking, okay, someone's pushing their recycling bin, no one's going to think anything of it. So there was a ton of comments talking about it, into where a lot of people were saying it could potentially been an inside job. That's always might be the case too. Of course, the burden of proof would be you have to kind of really investigate that, because that's a pretty big claim. So there's that. And again, how I said before, a lot of local law enforcement reports have been coming out and saying that homes are being targeted, and it's just because people in the area that are looking to target homeowners and looking to actually break into their homes are looking specifically for certain things like this. And so when they see obviously the big tent go over your home, then they basically know that there's an opportunity there for them to take advantage of, unfortunately. And so I just wanted to share this story briefly today, because it's just one of those things where we just have to be mindful. There's people out there in the world that want to do things that maybe in our hearts and minds never crosses our minds or hearts, because we're not wired that way, obviously. But at the same time, I don't think we need to be naive about things. And so, again, very unfortunate story. To this date, the case is still unsolved. The family did reach out to the local community and has also offered a reward for any information that may lead to the returning of their items. And so that's kind of where it is to date. I'll update the story if anything comes of it. And just kind of a series of unfortunate events. However, I think the silver lining in this is the fact that you do have the ability to protect yourself. And so, how I said before, you being a prudent homeowner, and having homeowners insurance, obviously understanding that, yes, your personal property does fall under the umbrella of any type of claim you would have to file. Now, A lot of homeowners are unaware, or you just may not be super into the details of it, that of course the burden of proof of ownership of said items does rest on your shoulders. And that's just kind of like how anything happens in life, right? Like if there's something happens, you have to prove that it happens. It can't just be he said, she said, or hearsay. Now, there's two options and two ways to go about this. You could experience, a devastating event or a loss, such as the story we shared earlier, and you could, try to pull everything out from your memory and take out a notepad and just begin to write things down as they come to you. Taking into consideration not only your personal belongings as, the homeowner, as well as all your family members. So your wife or your husband, your children, if you have, in-laws living with you, if you have cousins or other people who've stayed with you and they may have left items there over the years, or had you perhaps had family members or relatives and loved ones and friends maybe store a couple items into your garage over the years. You know how things just like pile up over time and things accumulate and you forgot about them. Maybe you had some musical instruments that your children are learning to play. Maybe you put them away for a season because they were transitioning and more into other activities. You try to think about all the things that you have in your home. It's thousands upon thousands of items in a home or business for those of you that are business owners. And it can be extremely daunting to think about how the heck am I going to pull out a notepad and jot down and remember every single item that was contained within our home in order for it to be replaced sufficiently, to the fullest extent, of course, anyway. You think about that. That's a lot of work. Definitely not something that nobody really kind of maybe not have the time to do. Of course, you may obviously know it's very important, but we understand life is just life and it will life. And you have so many obligations, family, yourself, friends, work, get-togethers, travel, just important things and just things that you're going through as, as a person. And then like your community at large, if you're very active in your community, and just things that need your time and attention and dedication. And, we have found that, a lot of people know about this. A lot of people are aware. They understand like, yes, I need to be able to provide proof that I do own X property or X, assets, and to have it documented in sort of way in a safe place. However, they're not sure how to get started. They don't really let them know like, the best place to even begin, and like how to store things, and like what's important in terms of what do you need to capture, and just the whole gamut of everything. So although this is something you definitely can do on your own, and we encourage you to do so, because we would much rather you do that and have your items documented versus like you not having anything at all. However, if you are looking for more of a professional expert touch, we do have an intake form that you can fill out, and we encourage you to do so. Because as I said again, life happens, accidents and disasters can occur in the blink of an eye. We really encourage you to protect your assets and your property, because peace of mind is priceless. And like we said, we can never predict anything can happen in life, but I do firmly believe in that, embracing that, but understanding that there's ways to be prepared for stuff, and that way we come out as overcomers as opposed to just being victims and thinking that we don't have any power. And so I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes by Alice Walker, where she stated, "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any." And so we definitely don't want you feeling that way. Go ahead and click the next video and watch that, and we'll take you over to the next segment to learn more about, the importance of having your assets and property properly and professionally documented, and ways to get started. And until next time.